Hello again. Still talking. Well, it's my day off today. Well, it's Wednesday. It's Wednesday still Wednesday. Wednesday the 13th of April. A moment later. I was talking about my dad, wasn't I? Yeah, that's my dad right there. Yeah. He died 1 week ago today. He was 82 years old. That's my dad. That's my daddy. Donald Stuart Bailey. Like I say, I never had religion when I was a kid. I didn't really. Sort of read the King James thing, was the gay bit in it. That's on the other film. But no, my mum said God is at the bottom of your coffee cup. But for me, always, my dad has always been my God. My mum and dad are my gods. You see, you Christians only have one God, don't you? You only have one God. You believe in this Father in heaven sort of thing. I suppose now that my dad's dead, he's sort of like everywhere. The air you breathe. Sort of everywhere. And in the dream world, obviously. Always in the dream world. I go to the dream world every night. Where do you go when you're asleep? Where do you go when you sleep? When you close your eyes and you're sleeping. When you close your eyes and you're sleeping, where do you go? To the dream world, don't you? You go to the dream world. And actually my dad's been very, very tired in the last few months. Because it's funny, hard, it's just exhausted. His body's exhausted. His body was exhausted, My dad's exhausted. Well, his mind was as bright as a button. There's nothing wrong with his mind. It's just his body was bloody knackered. Because my dad was on kidney dialysis three times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, for about 4 or 5 hours or something. 4 or 5 hours, plus the waiting time. Plus the waiting time before the dialysis. Sometimes he had to wait an hour or so before dialysis or something, about 7 o'clock in the morning or something. And he had to wait an hour or so after dialysis for something to get picked up or whatever. And he spent about 4 hours having his blood drained out by these. He spent about 4 hours a day having his blood drained out by these robotic vampires, machines. These vampire robots. Must be like vampire robots, wasn't it? Like kind of like vampire robots for about 4 or 5 years now. Like my dad's having his blood sucked out. Because my dad's had an operation, and in the operation they crushed dad's kidney and the arteries, right? They had to clamp the arteries when Dad had a heart operation. They clamped the arteries for about... The operation lasted 18 hours. We thought he was going to die on that hospital bed, to be honest. We were half expecting him to die on that operating table. About 10 years ago, whatever it was. But, no, that's about 5 or 6 years ago, wasn't it? 5 years ago, I think it was, yeah. 4 or 5 years ago. Before Jackie died, probably about 5 years ago. Because Jackie died 4 years ago. So, I think Dad was on kidney dialysis when Jackie died, actually, thinking about it. So that would be about 5 years ago when Dad had that operation. We thought Dad was going to die then. Then he had, because they clamped the kidneys for about 18 hours, the kidneys failed because they couldn't get any blood. Kidneys couldn't get blood. There was nothing wrong with Dad's kidneys, actually. There was actually nothing wrong at all with Dad's kidneys. Simple fact is that the surgeons clamped the kidneys for 18 hours. I think something like 18 hours the operation was, Touch and go. It was fucking touch and go quite a bit at the time. But the point is, they clamped kidneys, so he had kidney failure. So my dad was on kidney dialysis 3 times a week for about 5 years. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Dad had his fucking blood sucked out of him to clean the blood, and cleaned the blood and put it back into him, sort of thing. It was like, it must have felt, it must have been fucking hot. I mean, he hated it. I know he fucking hated it. Because apparently, it goes, when they take the blood out, it goes really, really cold, sort of thing. I was actually hoping that might actually improve his circulation. That was one thing I was hoping for. That didn't actually work. Because I figured if they're taking the blood out and pumping the blood back in every day, which is what they have to do to clean the blood, sort of thing, every other day, 3 times a week actually. They just suck out the blood and then put it back in 3 times a week, sort of thing. I was hoping that might have improved the circulation. Because you would have thought, if they're taking out the blood, putting it back in, it would improve the circulation of the blood, so the blood would flow through his body. So my dad has really bad circulation problems. My dad has had really bad circulation problems in his body over the years. Like his feet get really cold, or his hands get really cold. I was around my dad's about a year ago. I went around to see. I go around to see my mum and dad every Saturday and Sunday or whatever. Once over the weekend I go and see my dad and mum and dad every weekend, sort of thing. And on my days off, I sometimes go around there. If it's a Wednesday or Friday, I've got a day off. Then I'll go around my parents as well, sometimes. Quite a lot, actually. But I couldn't go on Monday, Wednesday, or Friday because my dad was always on kidney dialysis. And when my dad came off kidney dialysis, he was exhausted. His body was knackered, basically. It's quite an ordeal to have your blood drained out of you and put back in. It must be quite knackering. So my dad was fucking exhausted. So my dad sort of like tended to sleep for the rest of the day. Especially in the last year or two. In the last 6 months, I guess, or about last year or so. My dad's been sleeping a lot in the last 6 months after kidney dialysis because his body is so exhausted. My dad's so exhausted. Mentally and physically, I expected. So, he was getting really tired. Literally getting really tired, obviously, But anyway, I'm glad I spent that time with my dad and had a good chat. But he was quite breathless last Tuesday, and then sort of like, he just basically passed away. Apparently we had the post-mortem anyway, and I was telling you another film, he just basically went out of breath. But anyway, I was talking about, I was going to talk about books. I wanted to talk about books. When I was about, I think Robert was about 13. It might have been Robert's 13th birthday or 14th birthday, I'm not quite sure. It might have been younger, no, probably younger than that. We're probably younger than that, actually. And I think we were still at Howdale School. Sorry. I remember one birthday, I think it was Robert's birthday or something like that. Me and Robert actually had a joint disco, pie. We were in Wood Close, so it was before 1979. It must be about 1976 or 77. 76, Robert was 11, wasn't he? Yeah, in 76, Robert was 11. I was 10 in 76. So, yeah, it was probably about 1976, something like that. But me and Robert had a disco at our house. And we had a little funky disco, sort of like record players, and with all the disco lights. We had disco lights. It was in Wood Close, actually. It was in Wood Close. Because, the bottom, the living room, we were close, like. The dining room, we used the dining room, that's right. Me and Robert, we had a joint party for some reason, I can't remember why. We had a joint party. So a joint birthday party for some reason. Robert's born in February, I was born in April, but for some reason that year we had a joint party or something like that, a disco. So we invited all our school friends from Howdale School. Paul Sellew was there, Dan Barnes was there actually. I've known Dan Barnes and Paul Sellew since I was 5 years old. In fact, Paul Sellew and Dan Barnes and me, we were in the same class when we were 5 years old. We started Howdale School at the same time we were 5 years old. In fact, even in secondary school, me and Daniel Barnes were still in the same class, and we've always been friends. We've always been friends, and I haven't seen them lately. But we're all 50 this year. We're all 50 this year, aren't we? All my mates from Hatfield School and all my mates from Howdale School, we're all going to be 50 this year. So all my pals from Howdale School and Hatfield School, we're all going to be 50 this year. It's our birthday this year, But I'm just saying our 50th this year. But what I'm saying is happy birthday, Paul. Happy birthday, Dan. Whatever. Whatever, everyone. Anyway, a long time ago. I had quite a big gang when we were teenagers. I'll tell you about that later. I'll tell you about that in a little while. I was talking about books, yeah. No, I was talking about the disco, yeah. But anyway, one of my friends from Howdale School, Daniel Jakes, it was Daniel Jakes from Howdale School. It must be about 9 or 10 or something like that. He gave me a book called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, you see. It's true. Must have been sort of like 7 or 8 or something like that. Anyway, Damien Jakes gave me a book for my birthday present because he came to my party, to a party. Me and Robert, we both had a party in the same, a joint party sort of thing. But he gave me a book called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and I loved it. And when my brothers, Donald and Robert and Jim, they've always liked playing football. You see, Robert and Donald and Jim, they liked playing football. So quite a lot of the time after school, quite a long time after school, and in the evening sort of thing, my brothers used to go out a lot of the time and play football in the street in Wood Close. There's a road in Wood Close. But my brothers, quite often, Robert, Jim and Don, would go out and play football. And while Robert and Jim and Don were playing football, I was sitting in the living room. My dad's always read a lot of books. My dad loves reading books, right? My dad always read a lot of books, right? He's always been a reader. My dad's always been a reader. I don't know. I got a birthday present. It was about 8 or 9, I suppose. From Damien Jakes. It was Damien Jakes. He gave me Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. He gave me Charlie and the Chocolate Factory with Howdale. And anyway, so I sat in the living room with my daddy because I hated football. I've never liked football, man. I have always hated football. I fucking hate sport of any kind. I don't like sport at all. My dad actually used to be a rugby referee, actually. Don Stewart Bailey. My dad actually, he was a sort of like part-time rugby referee when we were little children. Before my dad had his heart attack, actually. Because my dad used to smoke all the time. Yeah, my dad used to smoke Old Holborn, you see. Dad always smoked Old Holborn, hand rolling tobacco, Old Holborn. Because he used the empty tins. In fact, the empty tins are still in the dad's shed. So the tins are still in dad's shed. His Old Holborn tins. Dad used to smoke Old Holborn cigarettes. Anyway, Dad used to he was actually a referee. Because we saw him referee a couple of times, I think, in the breaks, down at the breaks field. And Dad used to be a referee. That's right, for rugby or something like that. He was a rugby referee, I think, if I remember correctly. Anyway, after my dad's heart attack, he had to give up smoking, sort of thing, eventually, sort of thing. Just said, you're going to, something happened there, right? But my dad used to smoke quite a lot when we were children. In fact, it wasn't until, it wasn't after his first heart attack. He was carried on smoking, I think, because when Jim was in the army. Jim joined the army in 1979, I think. Jim joined the army. So it must have been about, Dad Dad was still smoking till about, I suppose, 1982, 1981. Because actually, even after he had a couple of heart attacks, whatever. When we were, he had a few heart attacks when we were children, like. But my dad still smoked until about the early 80s. Because Jim, when Jim was in the army, he used to always bring Dad home a box of King Edward cigars. My brother Jim, he joined the army, the War Corps Transport, in about 1979, I think it was. That's when he left home, sort of thing. But he used to bring home cigars for my dad. Every time he come and leave, he used to bring home a box of King Edward cigars. So my dad used to love King Edward cigars. My dad loved smoking, man. He smokes these, really big King Edward cigars. But then my dad had a really bad heart attack or something. Then he had to give up smoking, basically. He had a really bad heart attack after that sometime. But so he had to give up smoking. He had I think it was angina. That's right. It was diagnosed. I think that's when he got angina. That's what it was diagnosed, I think, with angina. That must have been when Dad was probably diagnosed with angina. And then, because that's like, and the arteries were getting clogged. So basically he had to give up smoking then, basically. For health reasons, yeah. But my dad smoked until about the early 80s anyway. Anyway, I was talking about books, yeah. When my brothers were outside playing football, right, and I was sitting in the living room with my dad, like, it was. We did start in. It might have been 78 or something. I can't remember when it was offhand. But no, I read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, see. And I read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and I really enjoyed it, like. So I really got my head buried in books for a few years. It's like, so while my brothers, I was a real bookworm when I was a kid. After that, once I'd got Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I turned into a real bookworm. I loved reading books after that. I did. I loved reading books after that. Because once I'd read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I got addicted to books, to reading. Because I always used to picture whenever I read a book, especially ever since I started reading books, I always sort of like dream the book when I'm reading it. Do you know how it is when you're reading a book and you get pictures inside your head, sort of thing, imagining? When you're reading a book, I always imagine a lot. When I'm reading a book, I actually sort of imagine the pictures in my head, sort of thing. That's the power of words, man. That's the fucking power of words. Don't you notice that? Do you feel? Don't you sort of like create the pictures in your head when you're reading a book, sort of thing? Alice in Wonderland. That's a lovely one. I love that book. I've started writing another one. Well, I have written another one. I'm just sort of typing it out at the moment. It's Alice down the plug hole. But anyway, I'm saying, while my brothers were outside playing football, when I was a kid, I think about 1980, that's right. When Jim joined, in fact, I think it's the year after Jim joined the army, because like originally there's sort of like 7 of us in the house. We used to live in 70 Wood Close till about 1980, I think it was, something like that, 91 or 2, something like that. But we lived in Wood Close since 1969, because Mum told me it was like a couple of weeks ago. 1969 we moved into Wood Close. I was about 3 years old then, sort of thing. But 1969, because they hadn't even tarmacked the road. Wood Close, the flat roofed houses in Hatfield over there. We lived in 70 Wood Close. to about 1979. Yeah, to about 1980, I suppose. So about 10, about 12 years, I suppose. About 12 years, because Hannah Cross lived next door, and there's the Grahams down the road, and the Bisbees up the road. I still see the Brian Bisbee every day. I'm a postman, see. You know, I know Andy Bisbee and Brian Bisbee quite well, because Andy Bisbee was a postman as well. He got sacked for nicking a bar of chocolate. But, you know, I see Brian Bisbee every day down at the post office. So he sends his regards, by the way, Mum. Anyway, yeah, yeah, I was saying, so we grew up with Close Light. You know, we had a 5-bedroom house, you see. Jackie was on the first floor. She had the pink room. Jackie had the pink room above the garage on the first floor. Because, well, on the ground floor we had the toilet. We had the garage on the, you know, one side. On the other, on the right hand side, like on the left hand side, we had the little downstairs toilet. Now, Dad turned the downstairs toilet into a photographic studio. I'll tell you about that later. You know, he used to sort of like print out pictures and stuff. But anyway, there was the kitchen, very small, quite a narrow, small kitchen on the left, and the dining room on the right. You see, there was a flight of stairs, the sort of curly-whirly stairs that went around, sort of like in an arch like that. And there's a massive, great living room. We had a massive, great living room on the right-hand side, on the Howdell side of the house. And on the other side, there was the bathroom. We had a bathroom and toilet. We had a bathroom and toilet on the first floor. And then there was Jackie's bedroom. Jackie had the biggest bedroom, you see. Jackie, well, no, she didn't have the biggest bedroom. Mum and Dad had the biggest bedrooms. There's 2 at the top. But anyway, and Jackie had the bedroom on the first floor, like the pink room, her pink bedroom. And actually, when my brothers, also another point, when my brothers were outside playing football, when I was a teenager, and my brothers were outside playing football in Wood Close, sorry. Well, I must be about 10 or 11, something like that. All my childhood, I think. All my childhood. In fact, ever since I can remember, I used to hide in Jackie's bedroom, actually. True point. Ever since I can remember, I used to hide in Jackie's bedroom. Because my brothers were always bullying. I mean, basically, Jim used to bully Robert. So Jim used to bully Robert and beat him up. So Robert used to bully me and beat me up. We never threw punches. We never did any wrestling. It was always only wrestling. Because actually, funny thing is, Jim did do wrestling down at the breaks quite a lot. Jim was a very good wrestler down at the breaks, you see. So my brothers and I, we never punched. Because Jim was actually a trained wrestler. Jim was actually a wrestler down at the breaks. He was an amateur wrestler sort of thing. So Jim taught us how to fight, you see. It was Jim who taught the rest of us how to fight, really. Well, except Jim got beaten up by Jackie. Actually, Jim did get beaten up by Jackie a few times, because Jackie was about 3 years older than Jim. So Jackie used to beat up Jim. So Jim took up wrestling, you see. So Jackie used to beat up Jim, so Jim had to take up wrestling to defend himself, you see. Because Jackie used to beat Jim up. So Jim had to take up wrestling, right? Anyway, Jim taught us how to fight. Basically, in fact, I never had a fight with Jim. But Robert and Jim used to fight. But Robert and Jim used to wrestle, you see. Because Robert's a lot bigger than me, actually. Robert was about, quite a bit bigger than me and a bit stockier than me when we were kids. But actually, in fact, Robert and Jim used to wrestle. Because Jim used to come home from the breaks, you see. And Robert's 4 years younger than Jim, you see. Robert's actually 4 years younger than Jim. He was born in 1965. So Jim used to come home, when Jim was when Jim did wrestling, he used to come home from wrestling and he used to practice on Robert, you see. That's how Robert learnt how to fight, because he was wrestling with Jim. Because Jim used to come home from wrestling, after wrestling at the breaks, and he used to practice wrestling with Robert, you see, and beat Robert up. So I suppose, I don't know if Robert and Jim ever really fought. They did wrestle a bit, because basically, no, Jim and Robert wrestled, I think, for a while. But I think Jim taught Robert how to wrestle, because Jim was a wrestler. And then me and Robert, because there's only 1 year between me and Robert. Robert's 65, was born in 65, I was born in 66, you see. It's my 50th this year, actually. It's my 50th birthday on the 19th of April. I'm William Joseph Bailey. But I'm 50, I'm 49 now, 49 now. 49. It's not bad hair, is it? Let's go close up on that. That's not so bad. Some respect on it. Yeah, I'm 50. Next week, actually. I'm 49 years old. Well, 49.999. 50 on the 19th of April, actually. So on the 19th of April, 2016, I will be 50 years old. well, end of my 50th year, actually. It's not actually the beginning of the 50th year, is it? Because actually, the beginning of your first year is when you're born. When you're actually born, like age 0, that's your first year, isn't it? The first 12 months of your life. I hope they put the cameras in the right place next time. Have you noticed on these galaxies, the camera, you've got to keep looking to one side to look at the camera? Because the camera is in fact over there. That's the camera there. But I've got to look out the corner of my eye to get to stare at the camera like that. If you put the camera in the middle of the screen next time, will you please put the camera right in the middle of the screen so that I can, on both sides sort of thing. No, in the middle of the screen here actually, the video camera especially, put it in the middle of the screen so that when I'm making a movie I can look at myself rather than, I can actually look at myself when I'm making a movie rather than having to look to one side. But yeah, I'm not doing too badly. Quite a few grey hairs actually. Well, actually not that many. I want more of that. I don't want to get more grey hairs. That's not bad for 50 years old. Well, 50 next week. 50 on Tuesday. Yeah, 50 years old on Tuesday. So the first getting quite high up. See, it's getting quite high up here, so I'm definitely getting older. See that? It is receding. It is receding quite a bit now, really. In all honesty, yeah, here and there. We're all getting older, my dear. We get older every year until we die. Let's hope that's not for a long, long time ahead. Actually, it's a good little tip for you, if you can. Yeah. Age doesn't really bother me that much, but it never has done. George Burns. You ever had a Quentin Crisp live to be 100? I think George Burns lived to be 102, something like that. So I'm only really just middle-aged, you see. Because I have every intention of living to be 100 at least. I don't know yet. No, I don't know. It depends if I find anyone. No, I probably won't actually. I don't know. I don't think I will actually. Cause I'd have to have someone to share it with if I did get old. Get really, really old. I'm 50 now, so I'm halfway. But then again, I've always had a bit of a weird face. I'm Bill. I'm really clever. You know what I mean? It's good. You ever read Lon Chaney, Man of a Thousand Faces? Anyway, yes, I was talking about, I was saying, So, I mean, anyway, Jim and Robert always used to wrestle when we were kids, right? Well, no, I think Jim used to practice wrestling a lot with Robert, probably. Because Robert was always a lot bigger than me, actually. Robert was always a lot bigger than me. But I think Jim used to come home from wrestling, and then Jim used to practice on Robert. Anyway, me and Robert, there's only 1 year between me and Robert. So 14 months. See, he was 50 last year, right? He's 51 now. 2 years difference now. He's 2 years older than me now. So Robert's 2 years older than me until Tuesday. Because he's 51, I'm 49. 49. On Tuesday I'll be 50, so then there's only 1 year between us, see. For 2 months a year, from February to April, there was Robert's 2 years older than me. Robert is always 2 years older than me from February to April, because he's 51, I'm 49, you see. I'm 49. I'm 50 next week, so next week I'll be 1 year younger than Robert. At the moment, I'm 2 years younger than Robert, because Robert's 51 and I'm only 49. But next week I'll be 1 year younger than Robert, because I'll be 50 and he'll be 51 still. Weird, isn't it? But anyway, me and Robert always used to fight when we were kids, wrestle. We actually got on really well most 90% of the time. We always used to fight and squabble all the time, man. Well, no, we did not all the time. Quite a lot of the time we agreed on things, but a lot of the time we did have a lot of fights, me and Robert. But Robert and me used to wrestle quite often. In fact, quite a lot. Hell of a lot, actually. Hell of a lot. Me and Robert used to wrestle a lot. But Robert never lifted a fist, and he always pinned me to the ground, because Robert was always quite a lot bigger than me. I'm sure I've made this bit on film before. I've watched some of the other movies, I guess. But Robert was always bigger than me. But I was never allowed. The thing is, so Robert used to, but me and Robert, we actually shared a pram. When we were babies, me and Robert, Rob's like I say 40 months, he was about 40 months old when I was born. But me and Robert, we used to share the same pram. Mum used to have this green pram. I distinctly remember, it was olive green, Robert. Do you remember the olive green pram? It had 2 heads on the pram, didn't it? 2 heads, one on either side, like. So Robert was in one end of the pram, you see. Robert was in one end of the pram. And I was in the other end of the pram when we were babies, when I was a baby and Robert was a toddler, like. Robert was in one end of the pram, I was in the other. So we were always head to head. Me and Robert have always been head to head, like. Ever since I was born, basically, I've always had to look at I was face to face with Robert. Robert's always been my face. When I was a kid, well, even now, really. Robert was sort of like my head. It was like my face. Because apart from the mirror, you cannot see your own face, can you? Because you look out of your eyes, right? You look out of your eyes, but you cannot actually see your face, can you? You don't see your face. When you look out your eyes, all you see is this great big hole, sort of thing. You know, if you look out of your eyes, you always see this great big hole outside here, you see. That's why you need people, you see, otherwise you go start raving mad without people. I know I do. That's one of the reasons I don't like being lonely. I mean, sometimes I'm not lonely. I'm not lonely because I've got plenty of pals who visit me every day. I've got pals who visit me near enough every fucking day, you know, if I want them to. I've got plenty of pals, you know, I've got pals, man. But the point is, I have been lonely sometimes in my life when I was living alone. I do live on my own, but I have pals who come around and spend time with me every day anyway. But sometimes I like to be alone so I can do my typing or do my writing, do my thinking or do my painting. So I'm an artist as well, like I'm an artist. I'm a writer. I'm an artist, I'm a poet. I'm a filmmaker, obviously. But I'm a writer, basically. But when I'm actually writing a book, I need to be alone to write a book. But then again, I have my friends around, so I read. But then what I do is I'll write a book when I'm alone, right? This is what I'm getting really back into. This is what I've been doing this for the last week. I maybe started writing again for the last week. I've always written loads of stories over the years, you know. I haven't written a lot in the last few years, like. Not since about 2009, 10. Probably about 5 years. I haven't written many. I've hardly written anything in the last 5 years or so. 4 or 5 years, I suppose. No, about 3 years probably. So I wrote a lot of stories after. But you know, I love writing books. But I've never really been very lonely since I moved up here. You know, well, you know, in fact, I've never been totally lonely because even when I was down, I used to live in. I was really lonely once down in Golding's house. But whenever I got lonely when I was living down in Golding's, and even now, I just go home to my mum and dad. You see, you know, if I felt too lonely, I'd just go home and spend some time with my mum and dad, so then I'm not lonely. Because luckily, well, for my own benefit as much as theirs, sort of thing, I've always lived close to my mum and dad. Now they live in Worcester Road now, live in Worcester Road. But when I was really lonely down in in my life, any time I was lonely in my life, I always used to go home to my mum and dad. You see, and I could sit in the living room with my dad and read the newspapers, or have a chat with my mum in the kitchen, and have a chat with my dad and stuff. Me and my dad used to talk quite a lot. In fact, quite a lot of times, whenever I had a problem, I used to go and talk to my dad quite a lot. Me and my dad, if ever I had a problem, I used to go and talk to my dad quite a lot. Me and my dad always got on well. I've always got on really well with my dad. It's surprising, really, considering what I put him through. You know what I mean? But I've always got on with my dad. Like I was saying, yeah, I'm sorry. So my sister was on the first floor of Wood Close, and on the top floor, mum and dad were on the right hand side by the Howdale playing field side of the house. There were 2 big bedrooms, and 2 small bedrooms on the top floor. On the third floor, there was 2 big bedrooms, 2 small bedrooms, single bedrooms. Because me and Robert argued a lot. Me and Robert used to argue a lot. Donald and Robert tended to share a room for the most part. Me and Robert used to share a room when we were children, but then we kept having arguments and fighting each other about the room and something. But so eventually I got the spare. I got the little room, and Donald got the shared a room with Robert when we were teenagers. Especially when we were teenagers, because me and Robert started sort of arguing quite a bit or something. So Donald sort of went into the bedroom with Robert. And sometimes, you know, when in fact, Jim was still. No, this was in Wood Close. That's right. So this was in Wood Close. Sorry. Sometimes when I had an argument with Robert or whatever, because me and Robert used to argue, we did a hell of a lot of things together. I used to go and sit with Jim quite a lot in his bedroom because he had the bedroom next to Mum and Dad. But Jim was well into David Bowie, man. I can remember quite a lot. Jim was into all the I think it's Gary. I think Robert might have been Gary Newman. I don't know. Jim was into David Bowie, and that's right. Jim was into David Bowie and the Stranglers. That's right. Because Jim had a record player. Well, we all had record players. In fact, each of us had a record player. True story. When we were in Wood Close, I think when we got to about 10 or 11, something like that, or 9, 10 or 11, something like that. But when we got to about sort of like 10 or something, I think probably about 10 or 11, no, probably about 11 or 12, I suppose we were. Might have been 11 or 12, something like that. But when we got to about 11 or 12, Mum and Dad always bought us a record player for Christmas, each one of us sort of. So we all had a record. So when we got to about 11 or 12, we got a record player. In fact, hang on a minute, the first record I bought was B.A. Robertson, actually. Oops. And that's a good album, by the way. Yeah, it did one, I think. Well, his first album. But the second album I got the next day was One Step Beyond by Madness. In fact, when I got my first record player was 1979. I didn't actually get a record player till 1979 because Jim's 5 years older than me, sort of thing. 1979, no, we were still in Wood Close in 1979. No, in fact, we just moved. I think 1979 we might have moved to. I think we moved to. I think we moved to Wood Close. Not Wood Close. Worcester Road. That might have been about 1979, actually. Thinking about it. Anyway, so I was talking about Jim, yeah. So anyway, but Jim was a bit older than us. So Jim and Jackie had their own record players. You see, because Jackie's like, well, she's 5 years older than me. No, 8 years. Sorry, Jack is 8 years older than me. Beg your pardon. Jack is 8 years older than me, see. So Jack is 8 years older than me. And Jim is like 5 years older than me. Anyway, Jim and Jackie had their own record players, you see. Yeah, Jim and Jackie had their own record players. And I used to sit when Robert and Jim. So when me and Robert had a fight, I used to go and spend time with Jim because Jim used to look after me actually, because Jim wouldn't let Robert. When me and Robert had a fight and I had to get away from Robert, I used to go and see Jim. I did. That's true. I did actually. Think about it. That's a true story. Yeah, because Jim had the red room. He had a bedroom. I think he had a red light. He was well into the Stranglers. Jim loved the Stranglers, and Jim loved David Bowie. Jim loved David Bowie's music. That's when I first heard Ground Control to Major Tom, the Starman and all that. That's when I first got into Bowie, was in Jim's bedroom. Because actually, me and Jim never fought because he's a bit older, like. So when me and Robert had a fight, I used to go and see Jim because then Jim would look after me.